I'm Dana Denha, and you're watching FYI. Oxford Company has created a new space for solopreneurs, remote employees, startups, or whomever needs a space to get things done to diversify where and how we work in Ann Arbor.
Brightworks is co-working space. We have virtual memberships, co-working desks where people can come and work, and private office options. Free coffee, internet is included, printing is included. You don't have to worry about setting up a janitorial service because it's all included. We have our location out on Miller Road called our Forest Cove location, and that butts up to the Botsford Preserve, and that space is zen and chill, and it's got this great kind of whimsical, funky vibe to it. Our second location is on the second floor of the 777 building, iconic Southside building. We all know it as you enter Ann Arbor on State Street from 94. So now we have our third space right here in the heart of Ann Arbor, Brightworks on Liberty, the intersection of 5th and Liberty. Everybody walks by it. And this space is diving into the fact that it is an old building. It's called the Darling Building originally. And it has all the funky little elements that you expect. Our goal is hospitality, and we really feel that that's what sets us apart from a lot of other co-working. And we just want people to come in and feel the warmth and the joy that we have. We're genuinely excited and happy to be here every day, and we want people to feel that way too.
For more info on this co-working space, visit brightworkscoworking.com. Stay tuned, and we'll be back with more in exactly 30 seconds. Books open endless possibilities to readers, and one local org is sharing stories from cultures all over the world, teaching children about countries, values, and beliefs from neighboring nations. Experience a colorful collection in the spotlight they are bringing to diverse children's literature.
Today was a little celebration for the launch of our team's very first children's book, Camellia and Punset, and it's also the launch of our organization, A Colorful Collection. A Colorful Collection is essentially an initiative that aims to increase representation in children's literature through different community events.
The stories that the Colorful Collection they're trying to tell is one that we need to hear. That's one of the biggest things that drew me to this country, just the fact that it's truly a tapestry of culture, of expression, of life. There's so many people from so many places.
So the theme of today's event is remembering your roots. It was really thinking about our childhoods, all the things we experienced as kids, just being around the table with our friends, family, and the food. To us, those were our roots. The book is about Sunny. He's a little boy and he's going over to his grandparents' house to celebrate his Alola's birthday. Essentially, Camellia means family. Pancit is a traditional noodle dish in the Philippines. Before the celebration can get started, Sunny must help his Alola, Amelia, cook pancit for the rest of the family.
As the world is changing and things are evolving, that we can continue to know that as long as we see the humanity in one another, that anything is possible.
For more, visit a-colorful-collection.com. Questions are the first step to find solutions to most issues, and the city is utilizing an AI virtual assistant to help with all municipal needs. Learn how to activate Ask Ann in this month's City Roundup.
The City of Ann Arbor has launched Ask Ann, a fully integrated and automated web chat assistant that helps people find information from the city 24/7. Ask Ann is built into a2gov.org, utilizing the technology behind large language models, or conversational artificial intelligence, which makes it easier for anyone to get quick answers to questions and find detailed information. Ask Ann understands and communicates proficiently in 71 different languages. To chat with Ask Ann, visit a2gov.org on a computer, tablet, or phone, and Ask Ann will appear on the bottom right section of your browser. Clicking the Ask Ann icon launches the chat window. Ask Ann also gives people the ability to message city staff if they can't get their question answered or are having difficulty. Want to know? Ask Ann.
Knowing the rules of the road and the right of way are necessary skills to be a safe driver. Over time, roads change and evolve, and the way we use them must adapt to the new flow of traffic. It can be a confusing adjustment, and one major change we've experienced over the last couple of decades is roundabouts. They're everywhere, cause plenty of chaos, and Michigan has some sketchy, dangerous roundabouts. Joining me is Jordan Ewald, attorney at Michigan Auto Law, to share the best way we can maneuver through Michigan's traffic circles. Welcome back to the show, Jordan.
Thank you for having me. How are you?
I'm good. I like the problem with roundabouts that I've always heard. It's like you get two different stories, right? One story is that they're safer, but then the other story is that they're not. So what is it? Are they safer? Or are there some aspects that are safer?
Sure. So roundabouts themselves are still intersections, right? And intersections are just inherently dangerous. You have traffic coming from different directions, maybe different speeds. So intersections themselves are dangerous. Roundabouts fall into that category. I think it also depends on, the traffic pattern of where you are, but we do see an uptick of crashes at intersections. 30% of all crashes do happen at intersections, and then a third of all fatal crashes are happening at intersections as well. So whenever you're in an intersection, like a roundabout or a four-way stop, there's a risk of a crash that's going to happen there more than if you're just driving along on the roadway. So are they dangerous? Yes. Are there other factors that go into how dangerous a roundabout is? Yeah, it's going to depend on traffic. It's going to depend on area, congestion. All of those things are going to play into it as well.
We have this list. There's like the 10 most dangerous ones. Is it really about the location? Is it about, users? I feel like a lot of time, personally, in my experience with roundabouts, there's always like someone that doesn't quite know how to use it.
Yeah, and that's true of anything, right? If you have someone who's inexperienced and they don't really know how to use something or do something, you always run that risk of that person kind of interrupting the flow. I do think, and it seems to be right, looking at the list that we have of the top 10 most dangerous, those are pretty high traffic areas, right? So anytime there's more cars, more people using that area, I think there is a high likelihood of a crash happening just because you may have an inexperienced driver, right? Or if this is a high traffic area, especially during rush hour, right? Taking kids to school, coming home from work, you're going to have a lot of people rushing to get to the places they need to be, may not be paying as much of attention as they should be, and that's why we're getting the crashes in these different locations.
Yeah, and it looks like at least some of them. I don't know all those areas, but some of them seem like they're really close to expressways, which also could mean more traffic, more rushing, I would assume, if you're coming off the expressway.
Yeah, especially when you're coming off the expressway and you're being asked, obviously, to merge back into slower traffic, that can be difficult if there's traffic coming in from off the roadway, right? So for example, the one up on Lee Road, right? That's right off of 23. So you have people who are trying to navigate the shopping area up there, the service drives that run along US 23 and then getting off the expressway as well, which can lead to a lot of chaos just because there's people trying to go all over the place who are traveling at different speeds and they're coming from different places, right? If they're coming from the shopping center, they're probably moving a little bit slower. If they're coming off the expressway, they're trying to get their bearings of being in a new area and navigate everything else that's happening around them.
Can you explain how people are actually supposed to use a roundabout?
Yeah, for sure. So when you get to a roundabout, the first thing that you should remember is that you need to yield to all of the cars that are already in the roundabout. So entering vehicles need to yield the right of way to vehicles that are already using the roundabout. Pretty simple to start, right? You also need to yield to pedestrians because sometimes there are pedestrian walkways involved with the roundabouts, which kind of adds a whole other layer of difficulty with that as well, right? Once you're in the roundabout, make sure you stick to your lane, okay? So while you're making that decision to enter, pick the lane that you need to be in. Most roundabouts, in my experience, have those little arrows that'll tell you, this lane will take you straight, this one will take you right or left. Pick your lane, stay in that lane. Normal rules apply, don't speed, right? Don't use your phone, don't engage in any sort of distracted driving. And then when you want to exit the roundabout, use your turn signal, right? Tell the people that you're going to be coming in and out. So they go counterclockwise, stay in your lane when you're there, don't speed, and then use your turn signal when you're looking to get out.
I will say I've never used my turn signal to get out of a roundabout. Never even thought about it.
I think that's pretty common because people aren't thinking of it like a turn, right? Because that's part of the appeal to a roundabout is you're not waiting at a traffic, signal to make a right or to make a left. You're kind of weaving through. But the point of the turn signal is to tell other people what you're doing, right? And if you can use that turn signal, that's going to help the other people that are in the roundabout, but it's also going to provide some indication to the people who are trying to enter, right? They're going to be able to understand, hey, okay, this person's looking to get out. And obviously, you still need to make sure that happens. You can't just rely on it, but it is a good way to signal to other people what your intentions are. So we're all trying to stay on the same page.
I mean, that's a great piece of advice. I feel like I'm really good about using my turn signals. I use it in my driveway. I use it all the time. And it's like, and I get upset when people don't use it. So it's a great piece of advice to really think about because, like you said, you're not really thinking of it as a turn. But the reason why I get upset when people don't use their turn signal is because me as the driver behind them, I just don't know what they're going to do.
Exactly. And that's kind of important to pull out too, because you could be the safest, most careful driver in the world, and there's still other people that maybe aren't, right? And the fact that you can use a turn signal to maybe just alert what's going to be happening around you is really important because it helps you, be informed. And that's kind of the whole reason we put out this list of the most dangerous intersections is not to tell people, don't drive or don't approach an intersection. That's just not realistic, right? But you can make an informed decision as to, okay, this is a high traffic area that's had a lot of crashes. Maybe I'm going to try to avoid that area. Or if I can't avoid it, I'm just going to be extra vigilant when I'm there to make sure that, I'm paying attention, I'm taking extra precautions to protect both myself and anybody in my car, but as well as other motorists on the road too.
I also think patience is kind of a good tip, I will say, because I feel like sometimes
Yeah.
like if you're not feeling totally comfortable to get into that roundabout when you're fully stopped. You
Yeah.
couldn't just yield. And
Correct.
then the person behind you starting to get mad, like, oh, get
Mhm.
in there. And you're like,
Yeah.
well, I only want to get in if it's really clear, right?
Right, right. Anytime, I think the best advice is if you don't know what to do, maybe don't do anything, right? If you need a quick second, take the second to pause, assess the roundabout, and make your decision. Because at the end of the day, that 1 or 2 seconds that you wait to make sure that it's clear and that make sure that the lane you want to get into is available is worth it. It's way worth it if you're going to end up in a crash, hurting yourself or hurting someone else. No one's going to be mad at you for taking that second or two.
Talk about, the severity of crashes. Are they a little less? I mean, you're not seeing as fatal of accidents maybe in roundabouts because of the angles of the accidents.
Yeah, that's definitely one of the proponents, or I guess good things that are argued about roundabouts is you're not seeing a lot of those head-on crashes, right? Because you're not having people facing each other for the most part. You're also not having a lot of those right-hand or left-hand turn crashes. You'll see more of like the side swipe, right? Still plenty of rear-end collisions that happen in the roundabouts, but yes, the idea that you can cut down having head-on, especially going full speed, right? Because you have to slow down. I mean, you're supposed to, but you're kind of forced to slow down when you get to that roundabout so you can assess and at least, okay, can I go? Do I need to wait? So it is cutting down on those things. The severity, it kind of depends, right? Everybody reacts differently. The types of cars, where you're situated, obviously wearing your seatbelt or not, all of those things, play into effect. But as far as like the mechanics of a crash, I think that is part of what's happening here is we're seeing it's less of the traditional head-on or complete right or complete left crashes.
Yeah. Do you find that obviously the roads have been just terrible right now? I mean, we're in the thick of winter right now.
Right.
Um, what about traveling in a roundabout or traveling at all? Any good advice for us, on these slippery roads? I know personally I need new tires. Like
Hmm.
I can tell you right now, I need new
Yep.
tires.
Yep.
And when I don't even know if I'd really want to go in a roundabout at the moment because I'd be worried that I might not be able to yield.
Yeah. Yeah, so obviously making sure that your car is equipped with the right, mechanics, tires, brakes, all of that is especially important. I think something that we forget, partially because it's inconvenient and, it's cold out, gotta wipe off your cars too, right? If your car is not being garaged inside, which isn't something that everyone has, take the extra time to wipe it off. Brush off the snow on the top of your car, your mirrors, your windows, windshield, because that's also a problem. We forget that there's ice on our cars, which impacts the headlights being visible for both you to see and oncoming traffic to see. Then it's windy, snow's being blown. It makes it harder to see. So, as far as your car itself, that's my advice. Make sure it's properly equipped and then take the time to clean it off because it makes a big difference for your visibility as well as everyone else's. And when it comes to actually traveling on the road, the best advice is the advice that we all know. Take it slow, build in extra time, make sure you're building an extra space between the car in front of you and yourself. So if you do hit a patch of ice or you start to slide, you have that buffer and you're not right on top of someone and sliding into them from behind.
One of the interesting things when I was looking at your website about roundabouts are like the stats aren't always like what you think they are. And
Sure.
it's a lot of times because when someone gets in an accident, they don't automatically call an ambulance. And then
Yeah.
later they end up being injured. Can you talk about that aspect of it too? Because we don't really have the full facts when it comes down to it.
Right, and that's important. Our website has all of the statistics for total number of crashes and injuries that have been reported for these 10 roundabout locations, right? But really, what we're finding is the injuries reported or the injuries suffered is 3 or 4 times more than what's actually being reported. And the reason for that is that data is collected by ambulance visits to the scene. Just because someone doesn't ask for an ambulance at the scene of the collision doesn't mean that they're not injured. And there's plenty of reasons for that, right? You're involved in a crash, it's a scary situation, you have a lot of adrenaline, right? You're thinking, I'm worried about what's going on, I'm confused, I'm frazzled, I'm okay, I'm okay. And then they get home and they're like, yeah, my neck, hurts, my back hurts. Or they try to do something that they normally couldn't, like, I'm not really able to do that the same. And they start to realize those injuries, right? Same thing at the scene, you may be concerned about, I don't know how I'm going to pay for an ambulance because people aren't, aware of how auto insurance, health insurance, those things work. And so they're concerned about that. I see that too. Or just, I don't want my car towed. I have kids in the car, I want to get them home. And then they start to develop injuries. And that's really not uncommon. People don't get into an accident and always say, gosh, my neck hurts right now. It's when they get home, they start engaging in their activities and they notice, yeah, I'm not feeling so good anymore. I'm going to go to the emergency room. And unfortunately, there's no way to account for that, right? Police officers come to the scene and they're assessing what they're told and what they have there. They're not going to someone's house or following up with them a week down the road, say, did you go to the emergency room on the day of the accident? Or did you go visit your primary care physician? And injuries, they can take time, right? Especially injuries to the spine, herniations. The more and more pain you're experiencing can come from when that disc material is coming out of the spine, right? And that develops over time. So, yes, there are injuries reported, but those numbers are likely a lot higher because they're only accounting for ambulance visits to the scene when that's not always the case and not really a complete picture of injuries that people are suffering.
Man, some of those statements you said are just so true. I actually, not in a roundabout, but
Hmm.
I was on State Street or something in Ann Arbor, and someone hit me this summer.
Yeah.
She just like plowed into the back of my car. I had the kids in the car,
Yeah.
like, panicked, the whole
Yeah.
thing. Because I'm like, when was the last time I can't even remember the last time I
Right.
experienced an accident, let
Correct.
alone never with a child or two in the car.
Right.
And then you don't know how the other person's going to react. So in this situation, this person actually was very aggressive to me and
Mhm.
was like coming at me like I did something to them,
Sure.
and then was like trying to like make the situation really confusing. So I would imagine that that's not something that I'm alone with. Like that,
Yeah.
like you're getting confused, you don't, and I don't know. Like I had to call my insurance agent. I'm like, okay,
Right.
here's the deal. This is what happened, blah, blah, blah.
Hmm.
And then she said something to me that never would have even dawned on me because this person kept trying to leave the scene. Like, I'm so busy, I have to go, blah, 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 and like
Yeah.
yelling at me and all this stuff, like, hurry up. And then she was like, was she on drugs? Why
Hmm.
did she want to leave the scene so
Yeah.
quickly? And I was like, these are all things I never would have thought of because I was in such a weird, like shaky, panicked, like mode that all these things that the insurance agent then told me, I was like, oh, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely a lot of things happening at once you're involved in a crash, right? Crash happens and you're like, okay, and where am I? What's happening? Because all that stuff kind of just flies, right out of your brain as soon as you're hit. You're like, what happened, right? And then you've got to interact with the other person, and you don't know that person at all. So how they're reacting, what they have going on, all of that can play into a situation where you're just trying to get your bearings straight and make sure that you're okay, your kids, your passengers are all right. And then, taking the appropriate steps afterwards. And you did what was right. When you get into a crash, you need to call the police, right? If you can and it's safe to do so, move your car off the roadway to a safe spot and wait for police to come. Exchange insurance information, take photographs. But in your situation, if someone's being aggressive, stay in your car, right? You don't want to engage in that. Stay in your car until the police arrive. They'll be the liaison who can go back and forth and exchange information. But yeah, certainly scary is one thing. And you're not getting into crashes all the time. This isn't something that you're used to happening. No one
I hope
wants that
not.
to happen. And so it can be like, oh my gosh, I know what I'm supposed to do, but for whatever, my brain is not processing what I'm supposed to be doing right in this minute. Yeah.
Does Michigan auto law see a lot of these roundabout accidents? And in your mind, or like I guess organization wise, does it feel like some of these top 10 dangerous ones should maybe be converted back to a traditional or something different? I don't know. I don't know what the future of the roads are.
Yeah, so we do see quite a few roundabout crashes, and a lot of them are in the ones that we've identified as top 10. What we've also noticed after publishing this list is those areas do actually seem to get more law enforcement presence to try to enforce speed rules, texting, distraction rules in those areas. And we have noticed that after we've published the list, there have been some circumstances where the road design has changed, right? They may not convert it back to a traditional four-way stop, but they've made certain enhancements or changes to the roundabout itself to make it a little bit safer, or at least attempt to do so. So that is part of the reason for this list too, is obviously we want to keep people safe. We want to advise them of these areas and what's going on, but then also it brings attention to law enforcement. So, they can do their part too, be there and kind of assess it from their angle as well.
Yeah, I will say knowing this list, and I told you, two of these roundabouts
Yeah.
I frequent.
Hmm.
Not that I wouldn't use them anymore, but it would make me just a little bit more cautious knowing
Sure.
that there are a lot of
Yeah.
accidents in these areas.
Yep. I mean, a couple of these are on my route to work or a route to family members or friends, and I know that they see a lot of crashes because I've seen them. Like with my eyes, I've seen crashes happen. So when I'm there, I'm kind of like, all right, let's take a second. Let's make sure that everyone is staying in their lane. Okay. I'm going to proceed through. And I do take it slowly when I'm in there, right? I know where I'm going and I know where I want to be. But for me, let's go slow in case someone else makes a mistake, right? And I'm building in a little bit more time. It's because I'm aware that there's more likely to be a crash here. I've seen them happen. And I just want to protect myself.
It's so funny. My husband always says he's a professional driver, and I go, I'm not worried about you. I'm worried
Right.
about the people around you.
Correct. That's pretty much, I think everyone is like, you're confident in yourself and your abilities, but you don't know what other people are doing. And so it's important to take those measures to protect yourself and account for that, right? It's all about the defensive driving, keeping yourself safe in the event that someone else does something that maybe they shouldn't.
What about, is there continued education or resources that people can take advantage of? Because I will say, I feel pretty good when I'm in a roundabout. I don't feel like I'm one of those people that like don't know what they're doing. I feel like I've used them enough that I feel pretty confident when I get in it. But I can tell you, I can feel when someone it does not feel that way in a roundabout.
Yeah. So from our perspective, you can go to michiganautolaw.com. We have a legal resources tab, and there's a ton of information about roundabouts. We've got some videos on how to properly, enter and exit a roundabout. We have statistics about crashes. The top 10 list that we've been talking about is posted there, as well as like a graphic which shows all the different things to know when you're in a roundabout, what to do if you're involved in a crash when you're in a roundabout, and some helpful information there. So definitely check out our webpage, michiganautolaw.com, and the legal resources tab has some specific information about roundabouts themselves.
Well, before we go, any additional advice you'd give to drivers navigating through any roundabout?
Yeah, any roundabout, any intersection, just be aware, of yourself and your surroundings, right? Take the time to assess what's happening around you. Remember, no rush is that important that you can't take a second or two to make sure that it's clear before you go. And just be vigilant. Make sure that you're taking the time to keep yourself safe and everyone else, and that's the best that we can ask for.
Well, thank you, Jordan. It's always a pleasure talking to you.
Yeah, it's always great to be here. Thank you for having me.
For more on this and other programs, visit a2gov.org/CTN. Visit youtube.com/CTN Ann Arbor to see all that we have to offer. And remember to like, subscribe, and ring that notification. Thanks for watching, and tune in next time to FYI.